Tracy Washington says she had to be at George Floyd Square.
I lost my son a year ago to police brutality in Florida, and I wanted to be able to contribute to the movement.
That's how her exhibit, Walk a Mile in Our Shoes, was born. She displayed photos of victims of police brutality or gun violence along with their shoes. The exhibit was just steps away from where George Floyd died.
My question still remains, how did we get here? Why are we here?
Many people have described the square as an open wound. Organizers of the events surrounding the 5-year anniversary say there was also an emphasis on Black joy.
It's always okay to feel joy. I think it's important to remember that grief is processing loss. And just because you've lost something doesn't mean that you need to be sad all the time. Sometimes joy can look like processing loss. Sometimes silence can look like processing loss.
Austin is executive director of a nonprofit that preserves stories of resistance to racial injustice.
We recognize that the land has a very integral part in this movement for justice, and it holds the energy, it holds the memories. Every tear cried, every shout shouted.
Lee Coleman has been keeping watch every night for the last 5 years.
Protecting the square, making sure I hold truth to power, and make sure everybody knows that there's somebody watching.
The square became a place of resistance and resiliency. After George Floyd's murder, Coleman, who is Native American, says the police stayed away.
They refused. They wouldn't even come within 2 blocks of here. We were to fend for ourselves. We were to help ourselves and protect ourselves, and which we did.
Meanwhile, he says officer-involved shootings have continued.
I don't know if it's improved. I think it's just a little bit more highlighted, but I don't think it's improved at all. I think it's just waiting for the next something to happen.
All week long, many have been coming out to pay their respects at George Floyd Square and to memorialize the man and what happened here. Still, there are differing opinions on what should be the future of this intersection.
You still can't do the thing that the council wants to do because it is against the law.
The city spent $2 million and 17,000 hours of community engagement to find out what the public wanted. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey says the majority supported an open, flexible plan.
Where you can shut down the street for festivals or gatherings, for healing sessions. But yes, you can also get the most traveled bus line in the entire state through. You can have access for small and local businesses.
The city council, however, favored exploring a pedestrian plaza, which would permanently close a portion of Chicago Avenue. Months ago, a supermajority overrode Frey's veto.
The state law requires that you cannot have more than 50% of the property owners along that corridor oppose the shutting down of the street. Right now, 100% of the property owners that we've talked to oppose shutting down the street.
City Council member Jason Chavez represents Ward 9, where George Floyd was murdered. He says the city's community engagement left out many Black and brown community members that make up his ward.
Putting transit back and putting cars back in an area that has been a sign of protest and has been a sign of resistance and has been a sign of pushing for police accountability, and to revert back to try to go to back as a status quo or back to how things used to be, in my opinion, and what I have heard from many people, is that that would be erasure.
Chavez says they hope to finalize a plan in December that encompasses the length of the former Speedway gas station.
The mayor is talking about the entire 37th and Chicago as a pedestrian concept plan. The motion that we passed and what we're exploring is that cul-de-sac, so the length of the Speedway, the People's Way. That is the model that we are pursuing, that we have as a city council expressed support for. And we believe that under state law, with taking the appropriate actions to make sure that we can do that, is allowed.
Not all council members are in agreement. They say a lack of compromise hurts businesses. Some of those businesses are even suing the city.
It delays progress. It also, there's a cost. There's a economic cost to waiting. I think this step back to research the idea around a pedestrian. It's going to cost around between, I think, $500,000 and $800,000. That's real money.
Moving forward and progress are not always the same thing.
I think some of the challenges up here is that there's not necessarily a cohesive message or feeling around like where we're headed as a community.
Artist and gallery owner Ace Rice has grown up in the neighborhood. He says with a dozen Black-owned small businesses in the area, George Floyd Square has potential.
It's just been a challenge to keep up consistent flow of traffic or consistent customers coming in, when to a lot of people in the city this is kind of a dark spot that, you know, not a lot of people want to go, specifically because I think people are like to go where they feel uplifted. They like to go where they feel safe.
Every day for the last 5 years, a group of neighbors gather to start their day talking about racial and social justice.
George Floyd Square is in the hearts and the minds of the people of the Twin Cities as a historic landmark. It's this floodline of before and after of racial reckoning.
Marsha Howard has lived near 38th in Chicago for more than 25 years. She stands steps away from the Say Their Name cemetery representing victims of racial violence. She calls their movement an uprising.
It's not just a physical place. The fist in the middle of GFS stands at the epicenter of a reckoning where people have to interrogate themselves. Where do I stand in this? What does white supremacy mean and move in me? And it didn't stop in 2020. That's why we're still here.